When there's no schedule for something, how do you know when it's late? For my case, puberty. I like to use the example of being in a train station, but you don't know when your train's going to arrive. You just know that it's going to arrive at some point, and everybody said the train always arrives, you know, your name's going to be called, and of course you're going to go, and that I'm just sitting there at the train station as a little kid, and you know, everybody's like, oh, you're just a late bloomer, your time's going to come, but it doesn't come because nobody knows that I have this medical condition. So how do you know when it's not going to come, right? Because everybody just keeps telling you it's going to come. It comes for everybody, right? It has to. That's just the way things go, because the condition that I have and that I had is so rare. So I like to use the analogy again of a train station where you know there's a train that's going to come, but then it just doesn't come. So at what point do you say to yourself, it's not coming, I'm just going to have to walk it? So at some point I feel like I did just have to walk it. And in that analogy, it's me just pretending like, you know, I'm growing up like everybody else, even though I look like a little tiny kid. At some point I just started walking, and the analogy would be that I just started, you know, imagining what it would be like to have grown up like everybody else. And so I'm in this little body that's not maturing, having to play act what it is to be growing up before the fact. And so that's, I think, what led to a lot of the things that I ended up burying, which was feeling like an imposter, because at that point I was, right? I was not growing up like everybody else, but I was kind of faking that I was doing, you know, like the growing up things. And then when I finally did grow up, I think that sense of imposter syndrome stuck with me. And so that's one of the things that I'm talking about that I had to unbury later on in life. So even though I grew up and, you know, went through something that's kind of like puberty, like I was talking about in my last video, and looked like, you know, everybody else, looked like a man, there was really just this sense inside that I wasn't valid, that I wasn't like everybody else, and I wasn't actually a man. And so that's one of the things that I had to unbury using a technique called IFS, or a framework for working with our inner parts, called internal family systems. There's some YouTube videos that I'll link below that are really great by Tori Olds. She's a psychologist who is really good at teaching this stuff. But it's a great way where you can go back and actually learn about and see what parts of yourself have been buried, and unbury them and bring them back into your life, heal them, and become more whole. So follow along if this at all sounds interesting and you want to see some of the other techniques that I use to heal my wounds from earlier in my life.